Periscope, which is even better. So we're live now on Webinar Jam. You will not see our faces show up here yet because we're letting the early group come into this. So this is the point where
yeah, we just start
talk about your discussion. So you were in El Paso recently.
Yeah, so I was down there. We were talking to El Paso has a lot of really great STEM stuff going on there. Actually, the districts in Texas, they have this T-STEM sponsorship program where the universities sponsor local programs, and actually the schools have to apply to get certified around these programs. It's pretty cool stuff. But we talked to a lot of great people down there. A lot of good programs happening in El Paso. It was a good time.
It's interesting, you see, because that's not like obviously El Paso is not a small city,
right?
But we think about sort of the educational activities being centered more in the larger New York, LA, Chicago, whatever. We absolutely see STEM activity in high schools, colleges in those cities, but it is so broad, such a broad national program and effort right now that's pretty much every municipality, district, I mean, nationwide, you're seeing this push towards STEM.
Yeah, I mean, I got out of teaching just like what 8 years ago now, and there were no STEM programs when I was still in the classroom teaching, and now they're everywhere, and it's definitely a recognition that the skills that are in those courses are vital, you know, and it's just it's really cool to see the programs that are going up and the emphasis that's being put on that. I was in one school, a high school down there, Del Valle Valle, I think it's how it's pronounced actually, high school, where they were doing a computer programming class. He had 60 students in that one, 60 freshmen all in that one class, learning how to do some programming stuff. It was pretty.
That's good to see. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Programming, especially, I think what's interesting is what NSF, National Science Foundation, just recently added that as a STEM subject. Healthcare sometimes in some of these federal programs sits on the outside of it, which seems sort of strange. Because I don't, having been in the health industry, not wearing a lab jacket here, not because I am actually a doctor at all, but
you play one on Hangouts.
I play one on Hangouts. Yeah, which is good. Yeah, but clearly those skill sets are just critically important. I remember in my own selecting this, go back, I was looking at college and got accepted into an engineering program. Wound up not going in that direction because I went with my uncle on a trip, and he took me through a number of locations. It was in the steel industry at the time, and so introduced me to all sorts of engineers and drafters and kind of the whole thing. And they were going through a strike at the time.
Oh,
So
wow.
I must have talked to like 20 engineers, and they're all like, "We hate it. We hate what we're doing. Don't do this. You're gonna be stuck on a drafting table your entire career." And at that point, I really couldn't draw straight lines. We didn't have the computer-aided drafting that we do now. And I know you guys say you're not that old. I look good, for the age I am. No, but
You do.
But I didn't choose that. So I look back constantly, going, I really, from the career where I've been, would have benefited from that. But it's one of the questions we'll end up answering. Is there a place for me?
Right.
And so yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, I remember thinking back to careers, and I originally wanted to be. I mean, literally, I remember thinking, well, I could be a doctor or a lawyer. That was my perception, even though that's not what my parents did. For some reason, as a young kid, I remember thinking those are my choices.
Sure.
And there was never any sense of what kind of careers were out there or possible when I was going through school. So it's nice to and I'm not sure that really has changed a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, I'm not sure that there still is that idea. I think most kids are still looking at careers as I want to be a vet, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an athlete, I want to be there's a little limited perspective on what
These archetype careers.
Right.
Yeah. No, exactly. I've seen that in a lot of different industries. The labor we worked with a lot across industries, and then I worked in healthcare, as mentioned, and so people's perception of what kinds of jobs exist in certain areas is shaped by sort of our conceived notions. So what do hospitals hire?
Right.
Right. The nurses, doctor, like we'll ask kids, students that really ask anybody that. What do you hire? Well, yeah, I would say 30% would be doctors and nurses of what we actually hired on an annual basis. The rest are all sorts of, from technicians to finance to across the gamut of things. You have physical structures, so HVAC mechanics and a bunch of those, drivers. I mean, the number of things that exist within an industry usually are just simply not known.
Right. Yeah.
Especially by students or even necessarily by teachers. And so, how do you connect what you're teaching to things that you're not even aware of that exist? So
we got some people coming into the room, I see. So we got Sue and Debbie and Martha. Welcome to the hangout. We're going to be starting here in just a little bit, so we're sort of hanging out and chatting. You guys wanted to go into our chat room, and if you wanted to let us know maybe like where you're from, that'd be awesome. Just as a brief note, and we'll mention this again when we get kind of rolling at the live once everyone hears it, but there is a bit of a delay with everything. So what I'm saying right now, you're going to hear in about 30 to 45 seconds. So if you respond back to something, it might take about 45 seconds.
Of 5 minutes. That'd be kind of bad.
About 45
Periscope
seconds
people, you're going to hear it all. I think that light over there too. But Patrick, you're good to roll on there. We got some lighting here. We tried to up the.
There we go. That's better. Yeah.
A little bit better.
Much better.
Wow, I can see you. That's frightening.
What are you saying?
Early banter. Just saying, you look great as a chef.
Early. Well, thank you.
I actually cooking up.
Yeah, it's one of the interesting things. Like I've always loved food. I've always loved cooking and food. So when I, thinking about putting this together and stuff, like the idea about being a chef was like instantly appealing to me, like being the STEM chef.
Yes. So we do have somewhat of a persona here for those of you who are, Let's look at this STEM Jobs Labs, and I think what's interesting. This is the first of this new mini series that we've got going. But I look forward to kind of throughout the year we'll be taking different things apart around STEM programs that are utilized. Also going behind the scenes in also going behind the scenes in items that we're building on from that we'll be presenting in the print publication, other things that are out there. So I know we've got some questions.
Yeah, so we had Debbie's in Brantley, which is in Alabama, and guidance counselor, and Sue, your first robotics mentor and technology teacher from Hollis Brookline High School in New Hampshire. So welcome to the chat. I was just down in Mobile not too long ago, actually, visiting some schools and teachers down there recently. Beautiful, beautiful place.
And we featured first robotics competitions last year. I forget which issue that was, but great program. Great program.
Yeah, robotics programs are really taking off. Like I was down in El Paso, that was one of the things that almost every school was talking about, either having a robotics program or digging into one. And how excited it gets the kids. The question that kind of kept coming up with all that is that the kids get engaged, they're excited, but they don't really know what comes next. They don't really know what a robotics interest leads to in terms of a career. That's one of the challenges that they have, is that they get the kids excited, but it still doesn't give them direction.
Yeah, so finding engaging and finding the things you love, and then moving from there to the next step is actually part of the recipe we're talking about.
Yeah, it's part of what really has drawn me to this point is, making that connection is so hard to do, but so important. As we'll talk about here in just a little bit, both of our routes to get to this point where I'm a chef and you're a doctor of some kind.
All right.
It's been definitely not a straight line path.
Yep. And it's interesting too. I like to say that 99.9% of all jobs are really accidental. And it just, like, if you try to trace back, and there's a few. I mean, obviously, like my brother wanted to be a lawyer, I think, by the time he was 2. It worked out for him. He became a lawyer. But and some people, teaching, that's another profession where you kind of have this selection early on.
Right.
The vast majority of people, when you ask them, could you retrace your steps and explain that to somebody? Could they follow it? No.
Yeah.
Not even a chance.
Yeah.
That's certainly true for me as well.
No, and my original education was music education. Got from there into teaching math.
Which I think is
fascinating. And then, started doing all kinds of other things. Got an MBA somewhere along the way.
On purpose.
On purpose, actually. Yeah, I know. I'm one of the few. But what's interesting is that when I got my MBA, it really allowed me to better understand how mathematics fit into the business world, at least.
Sure.
And it was like the first time where I was like, oh, I see that connection in a real way.
Yeah.
So, a whole different, line of thought that I gained from doing that. But
now we're going to throw a poll up here on, I think, RDP. It's up
already
on
up?
whether they're college, K-12, okay, representative. If any of you have the Periscope application, you can actually find us on there. It's I think we use the URL, so really hard to find, but good luck with that search.
So we got
some more Periscopers here. If you could share that with some of the other folk out there, that'd be great.
Yeah, we've got some people that are new in there. Audra, Diane, Jamie, Henry, Robert. Please, first of all, welcome. If you get a chance, look at the poll we threw up there about what if you're K-12, college, or employer. And welcome to the Hangout. We're going to be getting started fairly soon here.
If this all gets captured, put onto our YouTube site, right? So if you miss portion, I think you can even pause, come back. Of course, that won't help with the asking of questions, because if you pause it, come back like 10 minutes later, and then you ask a question.
Right.
We're going to be
45 minutes.
45 minutes into your, whatever that is, but we'll get there.
Yeah. For those that are new, if you want to go to the chat room and you want to throw up a little bit of a shout out in terms of where you're from, we'd love to hear that. It's great to hear where everyone's at. We're located in Pittsburgh, just outside of Pittsburgh, PA, is where we're at. So I'd love to hear where you guys are at and what you do. We're excited to be talking to you today and looking forward to this sort of series of what's going to be, I think, pretty exciting STEM Jobs Labs. It's hard to say. STEM Jobs Labs.
Jobs Labs.
Lots of S's.
So it's on there.
No, I like
what
it.
We'll be doing, which is getting into, doing some behind the scenes things. So as we try out new products, as we find other organizations like even First Robotics going behind the scenes. Okay, how does it work? How can you make it effective? How can you connect it to your current curriculum without having these wholesale changes?
Right.
How can we create partnerships? And that's a big piece. So it's exciting to see where we should be having employers representatives from colleges and K-12, and that's what we're trying to get. So even in here, if you're located in similar areas, to be able to reach out to each other. That's exactly what we're trying to make those kinds of connections. So
cool.
Now we have a fun video that we're going to show here. Okay. Yeah. So we do a lot of in the STEM Jobs Lab side of things. We do a lot of work on our product in classrooms. Any volunteers out there would like to host us for some of that? Would be fantastic. So some of the early work that we did was asking students what STEM means, which is always a risky thing with students to ask them questions like that, and got some fun responses. We got a quick video I think that we're going to show here.
EP, you going to throw that up?
Same time at this point. There we go.
All right. So.
All right. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
It's all his fault.
Yeah. I'll take the blame. Absolutely. Yeah. So in case you don't know, EP is our producer. We refer to him as EP. It's actually El Paso, which still isn't his name, but it does definitely fit. So EP is the one behind the scenes here making all this happen. And I got the room is really starting to fill up now. Got a bunch of folks here. Super excited to have everybody in the room. And again, please feel free to throw up on the chat where you're from. We got someone from, Diane's from Somersworth, New Hampshire. Barbara from Morristown, New Jersey. A couple of high school teachers, guidance counselor.
Are you going to name these people off the entire time? Is that
No,
what
I don't
this
think so.
Is all about?
We got Jamie from Philadelphia, PA.
Nice. Across the
Sure.
pond?
Yeah,
No.
I'm not sure what across the pond.
Sorry.
So
if we start breaking into
lots
weird
of-
accents or slouching, either one,
Yeah.
call us out on
Yeah.
it. We're trying to work on that.
we got Henry from Los Angeles. So we've got Pacific Coast in the house now.
Yes.
Nice. So awesome. So great group of people here. So you know what? Let's talk about why we're here.
Yeah,
let's,
why we're
let's
here.
get going here. So
Awesome.
let's talk about that. So go ahead, Dave.
Keep
Why don't
things
you-
on time.
Right.
You can do that. So, yeah, we showed the funny little clip there on what STEM jobs. They're asking students what STEM jobs means. So that's kind of funny. But what we really did hear from students is kind of this. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but sports, technology, entertainment, and music.
Which is exactly right. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the funny thing is that all of those industries contain so much STEM that those students are on the nose. I mean, you know, when we went out, we looked at like what goes on at ESPN.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just the broadcasters and the athletes that are on there, but it's the statisticians, it's all the technicians that are behind the scenes, all the people that make those shows happen. You know, so students that are really excited about sports, you know, we were talking earlier about how in the NFL, you know, there are tens of thousands of kids across this country that play high school football, and you know, all throughout college. Every college team has like 100 players on their roster, and there's hundreds and hundreds of colleges. There's only 32 NFL teams, and they have 53-man rosters.
You must watch
So-
the NFL then.
I occasionally check it out, but it's, you know, it's hard to get those jobs. But you
Yeah.
can get jobs all around,
Right.
you know, sports that let you do what you love without having to be an NFL pro athlete.
It's find what you love, connect with what you love, and that's a big piece of what we're working on doing here at STEM Jobs. Those are some of the most interesting conversations we've had, and in further STEM Jobs Labs programs that we're running, we'll have those with you, because it occurred to us, we're talking to Dr. Bent at the U.S. Olympic Committee, and he's in charge of all athlete performance, and I don't want to talk to any athletes, I just want to talk to the people behind the scenes who are using science, technology, engineering, math in their job. What does that look like? What does your job look like? Who do you hire? And they're absolutely fascinating conversations, and students get engaged in this too. Cirque du Soleil was another one that we did. We've got some really cool stuff in the next issue coming up here with Solar Impulse. So the flight that circumnavigated the globe totally using solar power, we went behind the scenes, talked to a female aeronautics engineer, fascinating story that we've got from her, as well as some other great things we have. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Cirque du Soleil is a great one where, you know, you haven't been to one of those shows, have you? You said
I have not. No.
I've been to a couple
I
out
got
there.
to talk to them. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's phenomenal when you look at the stage and you look at all the things. I mean, they've got this stage inside of a theater, and you know, it actually retracts. There's a giant swimming pool that's deep enough that they can dive from 30, 40 feet into it, and the automation, the safety mechanisms they have in place, it's all state of the art. It's all incredible, and it all requires tons and tons of technology, engineering, design work to make sure that it's safe and that it works and that it all goes off. And it seems totally like effortless when they do it.
You know, they lead the world in automation engineering.
Yeah.
Like they've actually created that across the board. The most recent Olympics in Russia, in fact, the huge pieces that they moved across the stage were actually facilitated by Cirque du Soleil technology.
Yeah.
Which so who thinks about that, right?
Yeah. So if you're someone that loves dance or you love performance art at all, and that really attracts you, but maybe like me, you're not a good dancer. I'm an okay dancer.
You really?
I'm okay.
Strike you as a guy that probably could.
I took a ballroom dancing class in college. That was pretty good.
Okay.
But I'm probably not good enough to be on Cirque du Soleil. Frankly. So, but
very few of us are.
you know, you get an engineering degree and you're passionate about doing that. You can be involved in those kind of activities.
Yeah.
Without that, which really is, brings us to why we're here, which is getting kids to see that connection from what's going on in their classrooms to the careers that are out there. Getting them opening up their eyes to that world of careers is difficult to have happen. So, there's a gap that exists between the workforce and high schools.
For sure. And Ernest, I see one of the comments that he just made about the government funding agencies struggling to kind of get beyond traditional STEM stuff. Totally on point with that. Just recently, the NSF brought in, legislatively, brought in computer science as being STEM. Healthcare still in many of the government definitions of STEM is on the outside, and I find that I don't want to work in healthcare. I want to go see a nurse or a doctor that doesn't know anything about science and math.
Right.
So extending beyond that is, so it's the balance, right? How do we bring what you're teaching and those subjects that are the traditional subjects and connect those things to what students love, because that's where your connections really come.
Right. And then looking at, how do we actually teach students about not just the jobs that are today, but the ones that are upcoming. I think you got some information on that, in the next.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's we're looking at just dates. So I've got my first of four, but first daughter entering college this year. So we're moving on to that sort of phase in life.
And my son's a freshman in high school this year. So
that's exciting.
Yeah.
So the kids now entering school this year are going to graduate in retire. Sorry, retire in 2075.
Yeah, my son will be somewhere around 2060, 65, and your daughter somewhere in between there.
Yeah, you and I will probably never retire.
Yeah, that's how it's looking for sure.
Just die right behind this desk, where we are. That'll be it. But so 2075, and in reality, we have absolutely no idea what those jobs are going to look like.
Yep, it's you think about the last 20 years of time. So. Since 1995, when I graduated from college to now, the world has changed entirely. I remember my one of my friends across the hall at the dorm I stayed in my freshman year was showing off this new thing called texting, and it was all done online on the computer. And it was like, oh, that's crazy. You're talking to somebody else.
For sure.
So the world's changed immensely, and we have no idea what's going to happen in the next 5 years, 10 years, let alone the next 60 years.
5 years to 10 years. And the challenge, right, for you as educators is that education is meant to carry us into the future. But the vast majority of the burden of preparing us for jobs that, frankly, we have no idea if they exist or not, laid on your shoulders.
Right.
And so there's this gap that we're all certainly aware of.
Yeah.
That's largely why we're here today. But.
And one of the things that we always try to enforce is the reason that STEM is so important is because skills like problem solving, analytical, critical thinking, data analysis, those are skills that are going to be useful next year, 10 years. There's never going to be a point at which an employer is going to say, you know what, you're really great, but you're just too good of a problem solver. You're too good of a critical thinker. Can't use you. That's never going to happen.
Absolutely.
It's a resilient skill that's going to last and be able to transition. Regardless of what happens down the road.
For sure, and I think that's what what we're seeing, at least on the standards sides of things, is bringing that out, because it's known on the employment side. That's where I'm coming from. Is that we're looking for those kind of critical thinking and complex problem solving, the ability to work in teams, those sorts of what they call sort of soft skills, but they're not soft skills, and they're what emanate from these STEM subjects. Yep. And you can learn them in multiple different subject areas. I think it's an important piece as we start crafting what our strategy is for resiliency, what you described, right? The ability to learn, to take what you've learning today, to build upon that in a way that you create resiliency in your career field. You can move as industries adopt and change, as job requirements in the business world change dramatically, and they will. It's just speeding up at a rapid pace. We're seeing this across the board.
Yeah. Ernest brings up a point about preparing students to basically shape the jobs of the future as well. So it's not just a matter of carrying on the jobs that exist now, but we need to prepare students to be able to solve the problems of tomorrow. To be able to actually drive us forward in that way, which which means they have to be able to think around the corners that we maybe can't, see around right now.
For sure.
It's a whole different set of skills. So this is blows me away thinking about this. So
well, you're a math guy, so
yeah. So
get us there.
Yeah. So when you look at every graduating class of students across the country, you look at how much we invest per year in a given student from the time that they enter public education to when they graduate. On average across the country, it's about $12,000 a year per student.
Here in Pennsylvania, I think it's $18,000.
Yeah, in different states it's going to be more. But if you look at that across the whole country,
and that's not what teachers are, putting out of their pockets, or
right.
parents or other. They're investing a lot as well. So.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, we definitely
right.
put a fair share of that in on top of that. But you're looking at least $500 billion of investment per graduating class.
Yeah.
That goes into getting these students ready to embark upon college and career.
Yep. And you've had over the past, I would say 40, but maybe even longer. We'll look at some of those numbers there, and a whole sector of employment that I know if our employers are on here. Don't want to necessarily agree with that. Well, they'll like to hear this, but have really disconnected themselves from that $500 billion investment that is returning, graduating every single year. Just largely disconnected from that, and that's a huge challenge. A lot of the federal push even recently on looking at and holding colleges especially accountable for job outcomes is something that's not going to go away. That will increase, and I think we're going to see what is the pathway, even schools. I'm sure some of you probably could mention those of you that have these building kind of career pathway outcomes that are built into the curriculum that you have. Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting piece, and it's something that what we're looking at today, and we'll be going over in this sort of mini series of things, is a recipe. So 4 specific points of this that will help to put this to give you some practical steps. We're going to start today with looking at some of the primary questions around that. But I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into this. What are the results of that investment now? And you get some numbers up here initially.
Yeah, I mean it's staggering to think that we're spending that much money and we have 83% of graduating students don't have a job lined up, and most don't know what field they want to go into. And 81% of students that are in STEM fields. So I'm in a mechanical engineering degree, or biochemist. My brother-in-law went through a biochemist program and doesn't have a job lined up, and it's not because not a hard worker, good guy, all those kind of things, but just there's not that connection even at the collegiate level in terms of really connecting to those jobs.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a challenge, right? It's across the board, that connection to jobs. Yeah. And it starts off at an early age. I want to talk about 3 different definition points here, and I think these are important. Some of the chat that I'm seeing on there, I think, helps to bring this up to how 5 to 10% of employees who represent the STEM R&D deliver a tremendous amount of value just to the gross domestic product. That's very true. But there are 3 different words as you look at the varying research, whether it's Georgetown or other institutes, McKinsey, the different reports that have come out, and there's more study around this, and has been for a number of years. Yeah. But the words literate, capable, and skilled. So I want to start to get this more into the vernacular, the discussion out there. The differences between STEM literacy, those individuals who are STEM capable, and those who are STEM skilled, because they connect to the workforce in different ways.
Right.
And fundamentally, we're looking at raising STEM literacy overall. So
that's that foundational understanding of STEM skills. Those are students that are able to go into STEM classes and be successful. They're probably not going to be in AP classes or the advanced kind of physics classes, those kind of things. But they're STEM literate. They understand problem solving. They're good problem solvers. They're good critical thinkers, and they do well in their math classes and their science classes. And they're able to translate those skills across to other disciplines. And as you see, 97% of the jobs that are out there are going to require students to have those kind of that ability of that baseline ability of being STEM literate. And I know you were talking about how when you were in healthcare that you had a hard time with other industries stealing all of the people that you hired because those ones that were STEM literate and even STEM capable and beyond we're just such great employees, right?
For sure, and maybe this is a good time to talk a little bit about our backgrounds.
Yeah.
We can kind of jump into that. So background-wise, for me, actually, the career, you're talking about a circuitous career path, right? So starting off as actually a Navy chaplain, served even in Iraq. And what I found in that experience, that's totally not STEM, right? That's not anywhere near that. But what I found in that experience was the incredible how vocation drives our sense of meaning and purpose. And in fact, vocation was a key central point in reducing suicide and helping to recover and overcome. And so, coming back from the war, I really was looking to make an impact in the world, and so joined the Department of Labor, was Chief of Staff for Veterans Employment and Training, so an agency within there that looks at helping the service members to transition into civilian life. Worked on building several educational programs with traumatic brain injury service members, as well as those with post-traumatic stress, pulling them into IT career fields, and then after that decided I wanted to apply these concepts in an industry that's a high-growth, technical type of industry, and so became the director of recruitment and HR information systems at a very large health system. We hired about 5,000 plus per year. And so what we found in that was that we had a tremendous turnover rate, like 34% in our entry-level technical type positions, which is very costly and very challenging sort of thing for the health system. By applying these principles that we're kind of going to talk about today, we reduced that down to 4%. And what we did in that was we actually built an entire training program and a partnership piece that started with the community colleges and the colleges in the area, but that really connected with the high schools. We finally became successful all the way down to the middle school level. We were able to reduce that 36% down to 4%. That was a $1.8 million savings for the company on a monthly level, but also because we were introducing greater STEM literacy in that program at the entry-level positions in the organization. One, allowed them to give us individuals we could bring in and train up in the company into other clinical type related positions, but it also increased or improved like patient outcomes, safety, quality, productivity across the board.
Right. Gave
a huge lift to the whole organization. And so to your point, we had all kinds of other organizations stealing everybody that I was employing from me. Because they look at that and say, well, you're coming out of this industry, you must know something, you must be exposed to the kind of thinking, complex problem solving, et cetera, and it's true. Just the exposure of being part of these sort of real world activities in the classroom that are integrated like that is crucial.
But so you save almost $2 million a month,
right?
And increase patient outcomes at the same time.
At the same time,
like saving money, doing better. I think that's pretty awesome.
So if you are a high school or a college looking at, so how can we're trying to build these kinds of programs, we're trying to be successful in this, how can we find the employers out there to make those sort of, this is exactly the kind of thing that we're looking to share with you and to help you do.
Right. So to kind of recap.
And good morning from Guam. I see someone from Guam. That's fantastic.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, Vincent, welcome. So to kind of recap or these last two definitions that we want to get into the vernacular. So STEM literate, at foundational knowledge, STEM capable, those that are more skilled with STEM, that have
taken a definitive track,
right?
In specific STEM subjects. It may not be some degree necessarily yet, but they exceed in higher level.
Right, and then the highly STEM skilled ones. Again, 2/3 of the jobs are going to require those students that have really strong STEM skills and have gone into STEM degree programs.
For sure, and this is the number you see most often, right? In most of the studies you're looking at, those that have a graduate degree, a certificate, a degree in the engineering field, something like that. These are the numbers that you see.
Right.
And we'll get into, we're going to, how do you take apart a job and look at the competency level, because that's a crucial piece of it. And, part of what we'll end up showing you. But that's the number you're usually seeing. That's why STEM literacy, I think, is really important, because you don't get here without the literacy component of it.
Right, absolutely. So then that leads to this next slide.
Yeah, the results. Your head is totally blocking it.
Oh man, I got to move out of the way. Here we go.
Okay, lean back.
I'm just going to kind of relax for a second.
Okay, relax for a second. All right. Yeah. So let's look at the numbers, because we know what the challenges are, right? STEM literate high school. So STEM literate high school. So they're scoring well in standardized tests. That's kind of a good utilization rate to see where your STEM literacy is in your school. So your STEM literate high school females that choose STEM degrees only 7%.
Yeah, that's just incredible. Actually, we just one of our colleagues just met with was the CEO of Salesforce, or
No, but she's it's not
one of the top
Salesforce, yeah.
execs at anyway at a Dreamforce conference. And one of the very top executive out of Silicon Valley who was a female.
And there are not enough of those.
Yeah,
as we are discovering in the news today. Yeah.
And so it's a huge issue in terms of getting more and more females involved in those STEM fields and getting them to see themselves in those careers.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The next one is really all. So STEM capable high school graduates, so those that could, if they applied, get into a science-based, math-based, or engineering-based program at a college level, only 6% of them choose that pathway.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense either.
No, it's...
the final piece, I think, is STEM-skilled post-secondary graduates. So you're graduating out of a high school, 2-year, high school, but a 2-year or a 4-year degree program. Only 23% hired into STEM jobs, and part of that is because they're being hired all over the place.
Right.
Because the need is, they're being literally drafted into all kinds of other fields because the requirement for STEM proficiency capability is required in almost all fields now.
Right, and that one of the things I always think about with that stat is that if a quarter of the STEM graduates are going to be hired into other fields, and we need, what's the number, 6 million STEM jobs by 2018? Is that the number?
Higher, yeah.
Or higher. So if a quarter of STEM graduates are going to not go into those STEM fields, then we're going to need 24 million STEM skilled graduates by that time. So we really have to.
And that's the skilled level,
right.
Yeah. I mean, not even counting the capable and just the flat-out literacy
right.
piece of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we really have to overfill that pipeline, and really, it's not just math students in there, because we know a good chunk of those are going to be hired out elsewhere because they're such strong workers to strong and capable employees for other fields that we have to really overfill that pipeline.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And you look at it, just the churn in terms of jobs. About 3 million jobs go unfilled every month, even at the employment level that we're at now. And the vast majority of those is because of it's the STEM capable requirements in these jobs that aren't being met at this point.
Right.
So now I picked up. We decided to go through and look at some of the phrases that we hear, in the news in general, and your experience as a teacher. Let's hear a little bit more about that. And you've probably heard some of these similar things here.
Yeah. So my experience. I went to school. I have a music education degree, and taught music for 4 years. Also ended up teaching mathematics during that time. Just happened to be where I taught. They needed someone to do math as well, and I was always really good at math. And my passion really was around teaching. Like I said, when we were kind of in our talk before we really kind of got going, was that I got into teaching because I was coaching soccer, and I really loved that teaching element. So teaching was my passion. And through teaching math, I really started to feel a connection to doing that. So I ended up making a switch over and teaching math. I taught math in middle school, high school for 12 years. Taught a lot of remedial algebra classes during that time. Taught all levels of math, but really honed in on remedial algebra as being an area that I was passionate about, because I really loved trying to get those kids to turn their perceptions of what math was like.
And math anxiety is a real thing.
Oh man, it is, and it's something that you talked about your programs going down into the middle school level to really target getting kids interested in STEM fields. But by the time they get to middle school and high school, they often have very real, concrete perceptions of their ability or lack of ability to be successful in those fields. I mean, they have it hammered into them that, you either are not good at math or you are good at math. And there's all kinds of research that talks about the fact that none of that's true in terms of, your skill set is not set in stone at any point in time. You can always keep growing. Carol Dweck has some great research on growth mindset, which we use a lot of. And but I also got an MBA along the way as I was teaching.
On purpose.
On purpose. Okay. I actually did it for a reason. And what I found was that when I got that MBA, I was really able to make a lot of connections in ways that I hadn't ever before, because teachers just aren't trained in how to make those kind of connections. And education is one of the few, I think, fields where you go to college to become a teacher. There's a very direct line of process. And even though I changed from music to math, I still, was a teacher. That's what I did. And I think for some educators, it's kind of difficult to understand that a lot of students, when they go into colleges or into college degree programs, there's not a direct line of employment that follows a certain degree. So that was one of the things that I really experienced. Always had that question of when am I ever going to use this? That was always the thing that I had to answer all the time. And one of the challenges that I had in that was whatever I chose, I ran the risk of making it worse. If I had a student remember graphic linear equations and a student says, when am I going to ever use this? I'm trying to, pick out some job that I think that one that actually does use that skill. Two, where they're going to be able to instantly kind of make that connection, like, oh, I see how you would use that. And three, it's going to be a job they might actually be interested in. So I might pull out something like, most kids like money, so you figure out, okay, well, maybe you want to be a financial analyst, and chances are the kid's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Nothing against being a financial analyst, but it just, I'm not targeting what they're interested in. I'm trying to match some job in my head that I think they might. It just doesn't work. You have to start with what do they really like, and then show them how learning problem solving, for instance, learning persistence is a skill that's going to be applicable to what they're doing.
You were saying in conversations we had before that actually history class is potentially a great place to start a STEM program, which I don't think anybody starts there. But
yeah, well, I actually.
You're just trying to put a word out there for the history teachers.
I totally am. I remember watching some great shows on PBS actually around Archimedes and the science of what he did. And he invented some amazing devices, thousands of years ago. That he's the one that actually created a huge lens that would light ships' sails on fire. So you start looking. I know it's crazy.
I'm interested already.
Let's
let's test that out in STEM Lab.
Yeah, but in history class, you really can talk about the history of how science has evolved, the history of how mathematics has evolved, which there actually used to be kind of a mathematics mafia back in the day with Pythagoras and these other guys, and it's some fascinating stuff. But
there's so many hooks across the entire curriculum that you can then draw people in. So I know we don't want to go too far in time, and we want to get to at least the kind of the 4 key questions around this. But these phrases, you got a question?
Yeah, well, actually, Ernest has a good point. It kind of leads to this.
Yes.
This actually needs explaining. Otherwise, it looks like we're.
I know. It looks like we're like broken. Okay. So these are common phrases, right? That we got here. Education is broken, right? What I looked for, you're going to answer.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I think this probably will help answer your question here. Kind of the bait and switch thing we do. But so I found some quotes, right, that we hear commonly and constantly in the media. Things like schools are not preparing students for the workplace. Secondary school education must adapt to technological changes in the workplace. There's little to no relationship between what is taught in school and what's needed in the workplace. Public education must change if the U.S. is to remain globally competitive. And so I like to throw out there, when do you think I pulled these quotes? Any guesses out there? They're probably, we're on a delay. So
yeah, probably 45 seconds before.
Write it down on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And then we'll flip. Yeah. So your guess.
Well, I know what it is.
Well, you know what it is. You've seen the slides already.
I've seen the slide. Yeah. So I work here with you.
You work. So we're just pausing until you kind of get there. Anyway, so write that down in your thoughts. But we actually pulled these quotes. You hardly see that. No kidding, from 1914.
Yeah. So the point, and to Ernest's point about, the point here is that education has been continually challenged with more and more and more things on their plate. The bar has shifted continually in what they're being asked to do. But for 100 years, there's been this talk about education needs to do this, and this, or that.
Literally 100 years we have blamed educators. And
that's just not. We have to stop doing that. We have to start realizing that the post-secondary system and the employers need to really step up and start offering their support and reaching down and really helping make those connections, because it's not something that the teachers are trained in, and they don't really. They've got so much on their plate as it is, it's hard to ask them to do one more thing without any kind of support or any kind of guidance at all. And
Absolutely.
Ernest brings that up in the chat. There really needs to be more involvement and investment of employers in that system. And
Absolutely.
yeah. And that's what you did when you were in the healthcare system, and that's
we did,
really
and we found the value of that, and we even found ourselves looking at, let's blame. It's the easiest thing in the world from the employment perspective of it to blame the education system, say it's broken, they're not preparing workers for what we need, blah blah blah. And then I looked at what we were doing, and we never shared. Like, so how do you build a curriculum around something you don't know exists? And we're not telling you what we're projecting. It's not like employers have no idea what skills they want to have. Now sometimes they don't. Have a good sense of what that is and how to translate that, and that's really what we're doing. And this is creating models to be able to translate that and make the connections between jobs, which really more, so really STEM literacy is more about transforming culture, right, corporate culture, and classroom culture, and making those connections. And I would even say, as we've had discussions probably 2 years ago, I think, with Dr. Carruthers out at Purdue, and some of the representatives of colleges that are out here. Likely can chime in on some of this too. Because my guess is if you're here today, you're part of, you've got some good solutions and partnerships going. But what he was saying, look, part of the blame really falls on post-secondary institutions, the big universities that have created almost a denigration of secondary education. And as we started to peel away, and we do a lot of this with programs, what are the skills, what knowledge do you need to have in order to do a job? That's what we call competencies, right? So what knowledge, what skills do you need to have? You start peeling that away, what you end up with is, well, where do they learn that? Where do they actually master that? And you can do comparisons from curriculum and outcomes at that secondary level, and there's a tremendous amount of education that is completely disregarded largely by employers at the secondary level, and it's ridiculous. It really is. And that's a piece that we've got to.
Yeah, and there's so many great opportunities for students to gain those skills if only we take advantage of them. We were talking about robotics programs earlier, and how very often, this is what we heard from a lot of teachers around that run these programs, is, what do your kids want to do with the skills they learn in robotics programs? Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know, not really sure, but we hear a lot. And that's not the case everywhere, I'm sure, but that's a great place to say, here's what you can do with all of these things that you're working on, and here's how you can build upon what we're doing here and start to look at that trajectory toward a career.
Yeah.
That's specific. So
we've got 4 ingredients in the recipe.
Right.
We're not going to go into great detail today, but you've been cooking them up.
We've been cooking some stuff up.
So you want to share what those are? We've got a nice slide here.
Yeah.
That you? It looks like you.
That's me. Yeah.
I think that's your face. You can't even see that, I think, on the screen. So we'll read these up, and I know there's some questions about sharing the slide deck, and we'll make sure we get that out to you. Yeah, for sure.
But so our whole goal here at STEM Jobs Labs and STEM Jobs is we want to help students do what they love, and we are our 4 ingredients to this recipe for success. We want to help students be college ready.
Yep. Is the outcome.
College bound. Career-oriented. That's the outcome that we want. And our 4 things are student opportunity. That's number 1.
Yep.
Right. So we want to make sure that students have lots of chances to experience STEM in their classrooms. That we're providing them with a variety of different things to do, so they can see it from different angles. Robotics program is one of those things. Just all kinds of opportunities. Next one is career focus. Right. So that one. We want to make sure that there is that, like I said before, with the robotics program, that they understand how does that translate into a career. Like, where does that really lead to? They have that trajectory in mind. Diversity is the third piece of that we're really appealing to all different kinds of students, and that we're really making sure that that the question with diversity is there a place for me?
Yeah.
In all of that, and
that breaks 2 ways, because there's the diversity in the sense of non-traditional students into all kinds of different programs, but also the sense of having different options and looking at these traditional subjects in different ways and creating different opportunities for students to engage in things. Yeah.
Right. And then the last one is partnership, which is really that question of how do I actually get there? So we need to make sure that the employers, the colleges, high schools are all working in concert, so that students do see that path really clearly.
Yeah. So we're gonna dig a little bit. Just with these, what we're going to do just for today, because this is a mini series, and we're kind of time-wise constrained for today. But we're going to look. There are 4 key questions, right? And I think if you just take these 4 key questions and ask them, look at a program, a class that you're running, the curriculum that you're setting up. Ask these 4 questions around that. It helps to shape the program around here, and I think you'll get almost immediate lift and some ideas around how to make those programs work better. I do want to go right back to the kind of the outcomes. So when you apply these 4 areas, and there's a lot of complexity in kind of building it, but ask the 4 simple questions to it. The outcomes are, you said, college ready, so more college ready students, more students that are college bound, and then more that are career oriented. And so what that really means is what? Academic improvement, right, that we see. As we've seen, as we've applied it, the actual academic improvement, student engagement, so more students engaging in these programs, and then ultimately quality of new hires at the end of this. And that's what we saw in the program that I built over time, over that 4 to 5 years in the initial launch of that particular program. Were more engaging, hired scores, more that actually transitioned into college, and greater velocity and quality in terms of the hires that we had. So 4 questions that we've got that we'll kind of pull into here. And I think right before that, we have a quick video that we can show, one of the student ones. I'm going to wait for EP to do this.
Yeah, EP's got to throw that up there, man. Let's read through some of the questions that are on there.
One of our new videos that we're going here. Yes, I think the advice would be good. Yeah. EP is whispering, so he doesn't get caught up in the mic.
He's shy. He's shy that way.
So these are some of the students that we interview. We work a lot with students very closely, as well as teachers and others. And excellent.
All right.
Good. So, yeah, powerful stuff.
Yeah. It really is amazing to see that.
If you haven't talked to your students, and getting them in a group is tough. Like it's tough. You can hone them in. We'll talk about the, I like to call it the quantum classroom sort of theory that we break into, but it's tough. But getting them one-on-one, and sometimes bringing a third party in, whether that's a college partner that you have, or a high school partner you have, or a business partner that you have, to have these honest conversations with students with, what do you want to do? Right. And so fundamentally, there are these 4 questions that we want to ask. The first of these connects to student opportunities, so that first big section. If we tell students to follow their dreams, we must show them how to get there. And so the first question that we have to answer for students is this.
When am I ever going to use this? And that's what I said. I hear that constantly. They have to have an understanding that what they're doing is relevant to something down the road. Otherwise, they disengage, they disconnect, and they just won't learn it. If you're not engaged, you're not going to learn something. So
Any quick tips on how to do that they could take away today?
Well, I think you start by engaging them with what they're interested in. If you're trying to come up, like I said before, if I'm trying to pick out something that I think is going to match their interest level, I'm going to be hit or miss. But if I can start by, like you said, asking them, what do you like? What are you interested in? And building off of that interest level first, I'm going to have far more engagement. The second thing I would say is, as an educator, and this is happening more and more, educators have to get away from being the sage of the stage. You know, it's not about me conveying every bit of knowledge that I have to a group of students who's going to diligently sit there and absorb it like sponges. I have to be a facilitator of learning. You know, let them drive their learning, let them be the engine behind that, and I'm the person that's setting up the environment for success as an educator. Those are two things that I think are going to lead to really great outcomes, and it's been seen all across the country as that style of teaching is really taking hold.
Yeah, taking the real world, bringing that into the classroom as much as possible. Tons of research around the power of that. I think one of the documents we're going to share with you goes through some of those research points and background on it. But that's the first question. When will I ever use this? So look at the next course that you're running, or as you're walking with students and talking, working on a program. When will they use these complex concepts and ideas? And what we do is really break apart. We start with what the students love. We dig into like how that happens, how that's possible, who does that, connected to a real human being. And you take a job, task, or activity, and you break that apart, and now we can connect that straight into the curriculum without wholesale changes to curriculum. That's a powerful way to do that. We got some samples of that we'll definitely be sharing with you. So the second question then is, that's opportunity, creating student opportunity. The next one is career focus, right? So we tell every student to plan for a career. We need to prepare them for what that means in this modern world, and that traditional concept of career is long past.
Yeah.
It isn't there. And so the question that we have there that we try to answer is this.
Yeah, it's how can I do what I love? So how can I take what I'm passionate about? How can I take what I enjoy? The examples we shared earlier about Cirque du Soleil and the Olympic team, and even our own career paths. It's about finding what you're passionate about, and then learning how do I build the skills that allow me to do that, regardless of how those careers change over time. A lot of people are going to go into careers that are going to graduate from college this coming year. They're going to enter careers that might not even be there in 5-10 years.
Yeah.
So how do we train them? How do we enable them to be able to continue to do what they love, even when those careers go away?
Yeah, it is the American dream. It's redefining this concept of American dream. We get another video we may shoot up here. Maybe we'll do that in the next one. That has just ask them, if you could do anything, what would you do? And that's one of the key questions that we end up asking students. I got to a point in the employment side of things where I got real jaded, and I said, you know what? You don't get paid for what you love. You get paid for what you do well. And that is not the attitude to have. It's the attitude that I had in the employment realm of things. But that doesn't inspire to get through the challenging subjects that you can have. And so I think it is an appropriate, what we've seen, right, evidence-wise, it's an appropriate thing to challenge and say, hey, what do you love? Let's find what you love. And I love to find challenges out there in the real world, right, that say there's no way you could tie this idea, object, concept that my students are interested in to anything that they would do in the future. And I guarantee you, in STEM Jobs Labs, we can break that apart and do that for you.
So bring on the challenge.
Bring on the challenge.
Fire us off anything that you think doesn't.
Next time we'd like to find one, because I was able to tie tattoos to something, so we're good there.
Yep.
The third of these questions around diversity, right? So if we ask students what they want to be, right, to do what you love, we got to show them what they could be. It's a critical sort of piece.
Yeah, is there a place where they have to be able to see themselves in those careers? I was talking to a teacher down in Richmond at a conference, and she was talking about bringing in people to speak to her students. It was an all-girls school, and she realized that she really needed to bring in people to speak that those girls could see themselves as. So she had to be really careful with the speakers that she brought in. So you can't see yourself in that role, you don't see a place for you in that job. Ernest brings up a point about not being able to diversify the workforce with limited number of opportunities that are only available to the students with the same old traditional metrics, just high GPA as opposed to interest and passion. And you know that's exactly right. You have to have more than just a robotics program. Nothing against robotics; those are phenomenal programs, but you have to be able to have a broader spectrum of opportunities available for students. That diversity has to be not just in terms of reaching out to females and underrepresented minorities, but having a swath of programs that reaches out to the people that are more interested in history, that are more interested in the arts and music and things like that. So diversity has to give them a chance to see, yeah, I can do something there. There's a place for that.
For sure. And Vincent has a thought on there, I think, too, right? You've already been implementing a STEM program for a while there, and the challenge is that connection to the employment piece. And so this last portion and question that we ask, it's about partnership, and that's where really that's the first place to start, is to look at the partners that you have in building your STEM program. If we tell students to go to college, if we tell students that this is the right career path for them, we got to show them how to get there and how to pay for it, and the challenging piece. And so this question we like to ask, which is how can I get there, and having answers for these questions before going into a program really dramatically transform your program. And I think the last piece specifically around connecting to employment, what we've done over the past actually about 4 years working on it is building competency-based education, which is different than competency-based medicine or competency-based teaching. It is, in fact, looking at how we break the competency requirements of the knowledge and skills at what level you need those to perform a job function. And employers totally, oftentimes what I see, don't understand what they actually need in a person to be successful for the job. And I think to your point, as that Ernest was saying, that they're looking for kind of this, do they have a cultural fit? Like that's the default thing. And that's so far from where they should be, because they'll see so far greater outcomes if they're looking at competencies, which are those basic fundamental building blocks of a job, and ultimately they're the building blocks of a curriculum. And so we actually have a taxonomy, and we've got a number of systems that you guys can use even today, our STEM type program, but a full taxonomy that takes all the Department of Labor occupational dictionary. And we've been working on that, massaging that with employers because to update it, because it takes a while to get that thing updated. The CIP code index, so those that are in post-secondary education understand that concept, which is every program you have has to be submitted to the Department of Education according to a particular code. And this is, so just a quick, open the doors, right?
Right.
So as you're looking for meaningful employment placement, and this, the whole press that's coming right now, July I think was the start of that. What's happening behind the scenes you may not be aware of is that your programs, the CIP code that you connected, there's a crosswalk over to the Department of Labor's occupational dictionary. They're using the projected salary from those occupations to look at your program to see if your program is going to, students will be able to afford your program. That's what's happening. And so I built a post-secondary school actually, as well as a number of other education programs. And so we had to select these, and there were multiple you could select from. And what I find is most don't really pay that much attention. Oh, this sounds about right. Let's pick this particular CIP code. So we've deconstructed all of that from the ONET dictionary and the competency level to the CIP code to the final piece, which are standards, state-level standards, which, for whatever your thinking is on that, they provide a bridge to say that in this subject, these are the standards that are being taught. We can connect those as competencies all the way to post-secondary to the job. And that's and we're excited that we're able to kind of pull that forward and to show you definitively. I would love to see, right, as a teacher,
right,
you'd be able to sit down at a parent-teacher conference, the next one that you've got, and to be able to say, today we learned this, covered these competencies in our class today. We're going to be covering these, and by the way, this is the connection. These are the jobs that they'll be able to have. This is the skill level that we're building for them by these companies that are hiring for them. I mean, that's a conversation you can have. You can't have at the end of 3 weeks here when we are able to have the time to kind of go deeper with this.
Yeah, and that's as a teacher that's powerful stuff when you can actually frame it around that, like, hey, we're not just learning, this standard, which is what teachers often do, is they'll write a standard up on the board and say, we're teaching to this today, and it has no context for students at all. But if you can say, we're learning this standard, which connects to this job, this job, this job, this job, these skills that are in all these different fields, that relevancy piece then just becomes part of the norm for students. They see the connection all the time. Talking to parents just makes it brings it all together in a nice cohesive package that makes that motivation part, which is really the teachers, that's the toughest thing that teachers have, is that motivation piece, especially, the students that are in AP Calculus and the students that are in AP Physics. Those are students that are generally pretty motivated on their own. They still might not have an idea about what jobs they're going toward, but thinking back to my remedial algebra classes, getting kids to try and to care and to want to put forth effort, like that was always the really tough part. So having that crosswalk and having that connection is critical to make that happen.
For sure. And if you want to know where you sit right now, in these 4 category areas, they happen to be what frame our STEM Jobs Approved survey and process. Right. So if you're familiar from last year, we actually listed the publication around the STEM Jobs Approved employers and colleges. And the employers are the most recent one that you'll see, and we use the 4 here. So we really focused around there. But we now have a STEM Jobs Approved survey for not only employers and colleges, but high schools, as well as nonprofit partners. Just by taking the survey, and certainly there's your criterion benchmarking that we're doing, and we're shifting to be able to see some of that reporting. But we'll be sharing with those that partake in the survey information, one about others that are participating in, are open to partnership, and are ready for partnership right now, so helping you to make those connections in your local area. But also what the best practices are and sharing those best practices. And we've got some great, some of you that have already joined us here today. And my guess is you're leading in this. We've seen some great comments already. That your thinking is already up there. So your best practice, being able to share those. edu.stemjobs.com is one of the sites that we have. That's where we share best practices. We'd love to invite some more participants and writers around that. Stemjobs.com is the safe place to bring your student. Is kind of how we refer to that.
And EP just threw up the STEM Jobs survey link on the chat room there. And
great.
We'll also send that to you in a follow-up email after this hangout is over. So
I will say I'm not going to name the names of organizations, so that we're going to open this up, and it'll be open for a little while. National awards actually will be given out in December timeframe. We're going to do a top 50 for employers and colleges. High schools will have a whole recognition of them, national awards in December timeframe too. The leading score right now is coming out of Baltimore on there, but take the survey. I'd love to see best practices that are out there. You'll get a sense too just by the questions that we're asking. The ways that we'll be able to partner and to share with you all.
Yeah. So let's go and look at some of the questions that maybe we haven't had a chance to get to. We've sort of been trying to get to them all throughout the way. So I think that Jamie brings up an important point. He says it's important to break down the culture of what it means to be an engineer or a computer scientist. Diversity is superficial. Cultural competence means we can help them create identity in that space. So.
Great comment.
Yeah, I think that's right in the money there. That you really have to, again, you have to let them be able to see what it would be like to be in that job,
yes,
and not just use the idea of diversity as kind of a catch-all. It really is a broader and a more robust term than that.
And I think a key piece there is there's so much sort of stereotyping that happens around every job, right? Just in hospital, how many, what do you hire in hospital system? I don't know if I brought this up when I was talking about it, but 30%. Doctors, nurses, that's what everybody says, right? But only 30% of what we actually hired were doctors and nurses. Hired so many more. And we had the same bias. I was working with the American baking industry, I want to say about 7-8 years ago or so. And so I asked the same sort of thing, like, what's it like to work here, and who do you hire? And, what do you think, most people say around the baking industry? You hire
bakers.
Bakers, yeah, right. So, well, no, so you don't. So it's what they end up hiring, are pneumatic technicians, are these thermodynamic engineers. I mean, it's a totally different environment, and even modern manufacturing, the modern workplace in a lot of these facilities is light years away from like where granddad or dad or mom or whoever were working. Yeah, they're kind of their work environment.
Right.
So I love that point, to your point, that the culture around that goes a lot with the sort of the skill sets, and it actually is exactly what we do in the STEM type. So there's actually a free quiz you can give to students. Later on, we'll be opening up a portal for you all actually to be able to see kind of the matches for your students in the back end of that. But we took all these competency level, instead of taking job titles and putting those together, we did brought in a PhD group, really have a lot of validity that's around the questions that we ask, and it's very simple for students to do. But it drops you to 8 categories, and those categories are competency clusters, which means that there's a certain culture around those individuals that are competent in those areas. And then we looked at the jobs, and there's some jobs that are clear, and then there's jobs that have the same sort of base level of competency set that you would go, wow, I didn't realize that a high school teacher and a police officer have
all the same skill set.
or elementary school
People
teacher,
management.
right? It's
Right.
similar thing. So
Crowd control.
maybe somewhere around there. So those are exciting pieces that we're kind of bringing out, but that's a great comment. Any of those?
Yeah, there were several folks that asked about, like, well, how do you connect, classrooms to, student interests to careers, and I think the STEM type is a perfect, well, it's not perfect, but it's a really good solution to doing that. That is highly valuable to just, again, focus students down in terms of, based on what my interests are, what am I passionate about, and then seeing how that connects to competencies, and again, be able to explore jobs that I never knew even were out there. One of my favorite examples is, as I was going through and doing this, one of the jobs that came up was flavor chemist.
Yeah.
I think I had somewhere remotely this idea that there were chemists that worked on things like Doritos, make Doritos taste really good. That people that I hate because I like Doritos, and I shouldn't, but that's
the most perfectly engineered food is the cheese puff. By the way.
cheese puff. Oh
yes.
yeah, a nice crunchy Cheeto. Yeah, can't beat that. But there's people that make a really great living doing that, and it's it's that ability to go, oh, I didn't know that sparks students' interests, and when you spark their interest, then you're moving forward, and that's what you want. You want that momentum going forward.
And we actually build lesson plans. The lesson plan designs are to give something that's easy for you that are kind of pre-built around that. But it's to give you, we use a 5E model on there, but to give you these samples of how to do that specifically. So, to your point, what we end up doing is finding, what do students love? Students love food, right? And so we did some interviews around food styling. That's one of the jobs in the food science industry. Right. Just trying to get food to look the same way, and for periods of time, different ways and stuff. And so we actually built a lesson plan. You're a food stylist today, and here's your task: is you're going to do this, and the food presentation is going to last for X period of time. And so we go through that whole thing, and it's a fun project for students to get engaged in. But you end up being able to show the real world. It's a real thing. It's a real job that you can do. It's a real task that person really does. We write about them, tell you who they are. You can go find them on the web. And it's, do you like this sort of thing? And then you can embed, you become the guide.
Right.
You can embed these things. Yeah.
Tammy had a question about college students connecting to the job market that are in STEM degrees, and I think, sure. One of our areas of focus is that high school student, but I think college students can also easily use that STEM type quiz and just that whole tool to look and see what are the opportunities that are out there within my area of interest, and explore that way.
For sure.
One of the things that we're going to be continually working on is making all those connections, not just for high school to careers, but also college to careers. But I think it's a good tool for them to look at and a good resource for those college students.
Yeah, and the STEM Jobs Approved survey helps with that. So for sure, I mean, our resource is actually used in colleges, and it was Cornell that actually pushed it out to all their student body. It's just one instance. We see community colleges and others that end up using it because they're looking for that place, right? 80% of your college graduates are not lining up. 3% don't have a job lined up. And part and parcel of the STEM Jobs Approved survey that we run is finding the employers who are providing student opportunity. So part of doing that is which employers have ramp-in programs, have scholarships for high school students, but then have internships, apprenticeships, and others for college students graduating. And we find those out and we share those. BP was actually the #1 in this past year. working very closely with them. A lot of jobs that they've got open, and a lot of great programs that have opportunity for those students already in college to connect with. So it's not just about, for us, we're not looking at do they have a bunch of jobs that are STEM jobs. It is, the competencies certainly require those jobs, but are they building partnerships? Are they working with colleges and high schools? Do they have programs in place that make it easy for these students with these? Are they part of the solution, right, to move and to build that pathway to end up in a career? And are they supporting them in a full career, helping them to build a career out, not just bring them in this one job and then moving on and having high turnover and not worrying about the turnover?
Right. Yeah, Ernest asked a question about FERPA being a barrier to being able to collect and analyze data and drive the whole process of connecting these different people. And
sure.
Yeah, we've definitely had to do a lot of research.
The new California regs are.
Yeah, there's even some things beyond FERPA that are far more restrictive in that sense. And so one of the nice things about what we're trying to do here, I think, is it's all about sharing. Without getting into too much detail, it's about sharing personal information for students, and that's
the purpose of it. Yeah.
So we're building a portal that allows them to connect without doing that, without violating that privacy, and give us a chance for all parties to kind of see the opportunities that are available, to make students aware of those opportunities, but without doing that. So to your question, Ernest, it definitely is an obstacle, but not one that's impossible to overcome. You just have to be really careful and thoughtful, like with most things, about how you handle it.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of that is connecting with you and with the events and activities that they have, and making those connections that way, as opposed to just obviously sharing the information on students. But yeah, we're hyper aware, I think, and very concerned to make sure that student privacy is totally engaged on it. But there are effective ways to make this work. And we found too that even employers coming into the classroom struggle with, like, how do I even talk to kids? And so we've worked with the employer side. We had one program with local CMU University with Propel School system that are here in getting master's program engineers into the classroom that just struggle with it. And so you're devising ways for them to actually work with teachers or with counselors, career counselors, to make those kinds of connections first, and then kind of spread those around. So there's there are lots of things that are working out there, and so what we're helping to do is collaborate, bring some of those together. And if you've got ideas too, I'd love to share those out to make this work.
Now, one last question, just real quick, is Vincent asked about. So they're currently looking into the NGSS with the intent to align them to their local science STEM standards. Might the concerns of the STEM Jobs webinar be addressed in those? And my experience is, standards are always a great place in terms of driving the direction of what you do and having that baseline for what you do. It's implementation of the standards. It's training teachers, make sure that they're able to implement the standards. But certainly those standards are really, the next generation science standards are really all about making those connections. It's a fundamental part of what they want educators to do. So the next step there for anyone that's looking to do that is you have to have the training for teachers. You have to give them the resources to be able to do it. That's the tough part, for sure.
Yeah. And I actually had an article published in NSTA I think over the summer time frame, so you may get an older issue of that, look back at that, or we could share the article with you, where I addressed that specifically around the NGSS. What I like about that is the way that it is written. It is written in such a way that we can relate it more easily to that competency level that I'm talking about. So yes, I believe that gives us a map from the employment perspective of things to relate subject matter that you're learning directly to jobs, and to make that kind of cross connection. And that's a taxonomy that we're finishing up. I've actually talked with colleagues. We're you're about done here. Kind of motion for me.
EP's given us the time to wrap up.
I've talked with colleagues of mine from the Department of Labor, asked them specifically, like, look, what you all need to work on next in the crosswalk is not the CIP code to ONET crosswalk, but the standards crosswalk, the state standards. Part of the challenge is lots of states have lots of different standards. We actually have a phenomenal member of the STEM Jobs team that loves this stuff.
Yeah, loves the standards and is working to build that crosswalk right now.
And building that crosswalk and finishing that up now. So the lesson plans that we end up running, the activities, class activities, we map them all to standards.
Right.
We were told early on if you don't have it, you can't use it. But so we make sure that there are things you can use, and again, to help just give you a template and a guide plan. But I believe those sorts of changes, again, are part of not having to have gigantic wholesale, curriculum adjustments, and still have a successful STEM program.
Well, that leads us well into what we're going to be talking about next week. So next Wednesday, we're going to be talking about one model of where this has really, really worked immensely well. So that how
we go into the blueprint for student resilience on there and dig into the model like you're talking about, where this worked. And so Eastern Kentucky University is one of the universities that we've partnered with over the past year or so. Had tremendous success in applying this model with local high schools in the area as well as local employers. Hopefully we'll have them with us at that time. I think scheduling is one of the challenges for pushing this for next Wednesday.
Trying to work that out.
Yep, we'll get there. If not, we'll walk through what went on there and the numbers and how they did it and how we worked on that. So that'll be the next thing coming up.
Yeah, so we'd really invite you to join us again next week. We're going to keep building on this topic and keep talking more and more about how you can what you're doing and really show kids how they can do what they love, which is our goal here.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Do what you love, right?
Right.
That's our kind of goal there. Thank you for your time and joining us here on STEM Jobs Labs. For those of you on the Periscope, thank you too. We look forward to talking with you. Share this. Be sure to share this. If we've got your information, we'll get this content out to you. We look forward to the next one, which is next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Same bat time.
Yep.
Same STEM time.
Same STEM time.
Same channel.
Yep, exactly.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Yep. Take care.
Do what you love.